And good morning. I'm Sally Markiewicz, and I also went on the mission trip that took place over Martin Luther King weekend in January, and I work better from reading. When Mary Ann Gaffey came to the Church and Society meeting in the late fall and told us about the plans for a women's mission trip, a lot went through my brain. First, I thought, oh no, not one more thing to do. She mentioned that in addition, we'd be checking out the Irons Homestead as a possible women's retreat site. The word beach was mentioned. I figured being chairperson of CIS, I was sort of obligated to go. So I put it on my to-do list and made tentative plans to attend. When I found out some folks were going that I really wanted to get to know better, I finalized my plans. I made it 45 years without going on a mission trip. Other than offering to chaperone the youth, and they never took me up on that, I was not searching out the opportunity. As time went on, the details were ironed out. About 20 of us were scheduled to go on the mission to a mission in Providence, and they were willing to give us one day. Apparently, because of the holiday weekend, they were having some citywide volunteer day, and it was kind of difficult, actually, to find projects to do. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I like working by myself or in small groups. I'm a pretty good delegator, and I'm an efficient worker bee. And rather than jump in and choose a project, like they had a whole list of them, I prefer to hang back and see what area they need extra help in. So my experience was a little bit different than some of the other women's experience. We arrived at the camp on Friday night, and during the caretaker's welcome speech, I discovered the beach that I'd heard about was a boat launch on a pond where they have no swimming. I was a bit disappointed, but I realized that, like Silver Lake, Irons Homestead was a special place. On Saturday morning, a man gave us an orientation and a tour of the Providence Rescue Mission. The homeless shelter was designed to help men find Christ and to get their lives back together. They provide 6,500 meals a month and provide beds for 40 to 60 men and half that number of women every night. The mission provides a free dental clinic and runs a thrift shop that they call Blessing Dales. Our jobs that day were to clean up the thrift shop, buff the floors, send out a mailing, make beds, help with lunch, set up for a dinner, and also we were invited to participate in 2 worship services. Now, I'm a thrift shop connoisseur, but a whole slew of very organized women went in that direction, and there was only one floor buffing machine, and I was not about to tackle that learning curve, so I left that job to Suban. I figured my best bet was making beds. There are 30 top bunks at the mission, and Kate and I made them all. 4 of us tackled the 60 beds in the bunk room. We finished in time to help some women set up a luncheon. I was talking to a woman about some crafty things. She mentioned that her craft items were in storage. It took me a few more minutes before I realized that she was homeless. She was well-spoken, temporarily out of work, and had no place to live. Wow. Being me, I grilled the women who were running the program. Right, Gordon? I grill everybody? And asked them how and why they got involved. One woman felt called to work with the homeless, and she got other women involved from her church. So that's how that luncheon mission started. Now, I went downstairs to check out this Blessing Dales. We learned that it's more of a clothing distribution center than a thrift shop. The dust from the thorough cleaning was beginning to settle. Yes, real dust. The space had been used as a Christmas boutique in the weeks before Christmas, then as a depository for junk. After a few trips to the dumpster, there were labels on empty shelves and boxes and bags of items to be sorted. There was a small food pantry space. Many hands were working hard, organizing, sorting, and throwing away junk. Ask Lucy Brown about the potatoes sometime. It was potatoes or onions? Potatoes. At the end of the day, the men who ran the shelter were awed at their new space. They'd never seen the likes of the women from the Congregational Church of Brookfield. It really looked completely different. I attended both church services that day. We were invited over and over again, so I figured that it must be important that at least one of us attend. The service before luncheon, the luncheon was lay-led. Women from a local church sang karaoke style and prayed with the visitors in the sparse congregation. 3 women sang a beautiful contemporary song by C.C. Winans called Pray, and I still hum it sometimes. Instead of joining my compatriots for peanut butter and jelly, I attended the luncheon. Mostly I just sat and listened. There were people who needed to tell their stories. I don't remember any of them because I wasn't asked to speak until long after so I didn't write anything down. The second church service, the one right before dinner, was packed. The congregation was mostly men, but there were a handful of women and children. Admission to supper was attendance at the church. This service was also lay-led and much more formal than the midday service. A few people sang the a cappella hymns from the hymnals. Some listened to the sermon, and most bowed their heads in prayer. I looked around and noticed that none of the other women had stayed for the service. When I asked about it later, more than one admitted that the smell of body odor was overwhelming and they had to leave. See, I have no sense of smell, so I got to participate in that service. We left after setting up the beds for the dozen or so female guests in the sanctuary/all-purpose room. Soon there will be a separate shelter for the women and children, also run by the Providence Rescue Mission. In our later discussions, we realized that we had given the regular staff the day off. The staff is comprised mostly of men in a discipleship program, which helps them learn to get clean, gives them counseling, helps them to connect with Christ, and reconnect with their families. Back at the camp, we enjoyed conversation, pizza, had a discussion, and played board games until we were too tired to function. On Sunday, we got up, ate breakfast, and got our marching orders from the caretaker of Irons Homestead. A group of women went down to organize the barn. I never got down there to see it, but I heard our group did a wonderful job. They found stuff that had been lost for years. Some of us strung colored lights on the outbuildings. Lucy and Sue worked the screwing drill thing, and I untangled and helped with the lights. After lunch, a group of us painted the halls and doors in the building we stayed in, and then we left before dark, before the upcoming snowstorm, which we drove right into. A mission trip, I discovered, is like a retreat with a purpose. In our hard work and in the daily efforts of the organizations we helped, I could feel God's presence. I'd do it again. Amen.